Kwame's hands shook as he stared at his phone screen. His eyes grew wide like saucers. The message was clear: transaction successful. You have sent $50,000 to Oma Ose. Oma Ose. That was his wife's name. His wife. Not Efua, his side chick who had been begging him for money all week. No, 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 no. Kwame whispered, his voice cracking like dry leaves under feet. He pressed the phone against his forehead, then pulled it back to look at the screen again, hoping the words would change. They didn't. For 15 years, Kwame had been the stingiest husband in all of Bakoro village. He gave his wife Oma exactly $50 every month for food, soap, and everything the family needed. When she asked for new shoes, he said the old ones could be repaired. When she wanted fabric for a new dress, he told her to wait until next year. When their daughter Akojoa needed books for school, he complained about the price for 3 whole days before finally buying them. But now, because of one careless mistake, one moment of not checking carefully, he had sent his wife more money than he had given her in their entire marriage combined. And the worst part? Oma didn't even know the money was sitting in her account yet. She was at the market, probably counting coins to buy vegetables, not knowing that she was now richer than she had ever dreamed. Kwame's stomach twisted like a rope. What would happen when she checked her phone? What would she say? What would she do? Would she find out about Efua? Would she leave him? Would she spend all the money before he could get it back? But let me tell you how Kwame, the stingiest man in Bakoro, ended up in this terrible situation. 3 months earlier, Kwame was sitting under the big baobab tree in the center of Bakoro village, fanning himself with an old newspaper. The sun was hot and angry that day, beating down on the red clay earth like it had a grudge against the world. Kwame, my friend, called out Kofi, his childhood friend, walking toward him with a big smile. You look troubled. What is it in your mind? Kwame shook his head. It's Oma. She keeps asking me for money. Money for this, money for that. Does she think I am the government? Does she think I print money in my sleep? Kofi laughed and sat down beside him. But Kwame, you have money. Everyone knows you have been saving for years. Your construction business is doing well. Why do you squeeze every coin until it cries? Because, Kwame said, pointing his finger like a teacher, money that is spent is gone forever. Money that is saved grows like a tree. I am thinking of the future, Kofi. I am thinking of tomorrow. But what about today? Kofi asked. What about making your wife happy today? Oma is a good woman. She takes care of your home, raises your daughter, never complains too much. Why not bless her small? Kwame waved his hand like he was shooing away a fly. She has everything she needs. Food on the table, roof over her head, clothes on her back. What more does a woman want? Kofi shook his head slowly. My friend, you will learn. One day, you will learn. But Kwame didn't listen. He went home that evening and gave Oma her usual $50 for the month. She took it without saying anything, but he could see the disappointment in her eyes, the way her shoulders dropped just a little bit. Is something wrong? Kwame asked, though he didn't really want to know the answer. No, nothing, Oma said quietly. Thank you for the money. She turned away to start cooking dinner, and Kwame felt a small pinch in his chest, like a tiny thorn had pricked him. But he pushed the feeling away and went to sit in his favorite chair. Weeks passed like clouds across the sky. Kwame continued his routine. He woke up early, went to his construction sites, checked on his workers, collected his money, and went home. He kept his money in 3 different bank accounts. One account was for his business. One account was for his family expenses, though he barely put anything in it. And one account was his secret account, the one nobody knew about, where he kept most of his money. This secret account had been growing for years, fed by profits from his business that he never told Omar about. In that account sat over $200,000. But Kwame told everyone, including his wife, that business was slow, money was tight, and they needed to be very careful with spending. Then one day, Kwame met Efua. It happened at a building supply store in the next town, Kumawa, about 30 miles from Bakoro. Efua was young, maybe 25 years old, with a bright smile and a laugh that sounded like music. She worked at the store, helping customers find what they needed. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked Kwame, and he felt something he hadn't felt in years. His heart jumped a little bit. "Yes," he said, suddenly forgetting what he came to buy. "Yes, I need cement. And also nails. Big nails." Efua smiled and showed him where everything was. They talked while she helped him, and Kwame found himself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in months. Before he left, he did something that surprised even himself. He gave Efua his phone number. "In case I need to order supplies," he explained. "You know, for my business." Efua took the number with a knowing smile. "Of course, sir. For business." Within a week, they were texting every day. Within 2 weeks, Efua was calling him baby and my darling. Within 3 weeks, Kwame was visiting Kumawa twice a week, telling Omar he had important business meetings. Efua was different from Omar in every way. She laughed at all his jokes. She told him he was handsome and strong. She said she had never met a man as wonderful as him. And unlike Omar, Efua loved to talk about money. "Baby, I wish I could start my own business," she would say, touching his arm softly. "But it takes money, and I'm just a poor girl working in a store." "How much would you need?" Kwame asked one day, surprising himself again. "Oh, I couldn't ask you for money," Efua said, looking away shyly. That wouldn't be right. But she didn't have to ask directly. She talked about money problems constantly. Her mother was sick and needed medicine. Her landlord was raising the rent. Her nephew needed school fees. Every conversation somehow ended with money troubles. And Kwame, the stingiest man in Bakoro, the man who argued with his wife over $5, started thinking about giving Efua money. Lots of money. "I could help you," he finally said one evening as they sat in his truck outside the supply store. "I could give you money to start your business." Efua's eyes lit up like stars. "Really? Oh, Kwame, you would do that for me? How much are we talking about?" Kwame's mouth moved before his brain could stop it. $50,000. He shocked himself by saying it. $50,000. That was more than he had spent on his entire family in years. But looking at Efua's excited face, hearing her squeal with joy and hug him tight, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He felt generous. He felt like a big man. He felt important. "When can you send it?" Efua asked, already making plans. "I need to find a shop space, buy inventory, register the business." "Oh, Kwame, you're changing my life." "Soon," Kwame promised. "Very soon." That night, Kwame couldn't sleep. He lay in bed next to Omar, who was snoring softly, and stared at the ceiling. $50,000. It was a lot of money, even for him. But Efua made him feel young again. She made him feel alive. Wasn't he allowed to be happy? Hadn't he worked hard all his life? Didn't he deserve this? He pushed away thoughts of Omar, of their daughter Akojua, of his marriage vows. He was going to do this. He was going to help Efua. And nobody needed to know. The next morning, Kwame woke up with his mind made up. He would transfer the money to Efua today. He ate his breakfast quickly, barely tasting the porridge Omar had made. His hands were sweaty, and his heart was beating fast. "Are you okay?" Omar asked, noticing his strange behavior. You seem nervous. I'm fine, Kwame snapped, more harshly than he intended. Just thinking about work. Oma nodded and went back to washing dishes. She was used to his moods. After breakfast, Kwame went to his small office in the house, closed the door, and took out his phone. His fingers trembled as he opened his banking app. He had saved Efua's account details the day before. All he had to do was enter the amount and hit send. $50,000. His finger hovered over the confirm button. For a moment, he hesitated. This was real money. Money he had worked years to save. Was Efua really worth it? Did she really love him, or did she just love his money? But then his phone buzzed with a message from Efua. Good morning, my king. I'm dreaming about our future together. About the business you're going to help me build. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. That was all Kwame needed. He pressed confirm. Transaction successful. You have sent $50,000 to Oma Ose. Wait. What? Kwame blinked. He read the message again. Oma Ose. That wasn't right. Efua's last name was Mensah. Efua Mensah. Not Oma Ose. Oma Ose was his wife. His blood turned to ice water. His hand started shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. No. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. He quickly opened his banking app again and checked the transaction history. There it was, clear as day, transfer to Oma Ose, $50,000, successful. Oh God, Kwame whispered. Oh God, oh God, oh God. He had made a terrible mistake. The worst mistake of his life. He had saved both women's account information in his phone, and in his nervousness, in his rush, he had selected the wrong name. He had sent $50,000 to his wife instead of his side chick. Kwame jumped up from his chair so fast it fell backward with a crash. Kwame. What happened? Oma called from the kitchen. Are you all right? I'm fine, he shouted back, his voice high and panicked. I dropped something. His mind was racing faster than a cheetah chasing prey. What could he do? Could he cancel the transfer? He checked his app frantically, but it was too late. The money had already left his account. It was already in Oma's account. Could he call the bank? Tell them it was a mistake. But what would he say? That he accidentally sent his wife money that was meant for his mistress. They would laugh at him. Or worse, they would tell Oma. Maybe Oma wouldn't check her account today. Maybe he had time to think of something. When was the last time she checked her bank account anyway? She rarely used her ATM card. She mostly dealt with cash. Maybe he had a few days to figure this out. Kwame tried to calm his breathing. He picked up his fallen chair and sat down again. His shirt was soaked with sweat. Think, Kwame, think. There had to be a way out of this. His phone buzzed again. It was Efua. Baby, I'm at the bank waiting. Have you sent the money yet? I'm so excited I can barely breathe. Kwame's stomach dropped like a stone into a deep well. Efua was at the bank right now, waiting for money that would never come. Money that was sitting in his wife's account instead. What was he going to tell Efua? What was he going to tell Oma? How had his life become such a terrible mess in just 5 minutes? Before he could think of what to do next, he heard the front door open. Oma was back from the market earlier than usual. Kwame, she called out, her voice strange, different from normal. Kwame, come here. Quick. Something impossible has happened. Kwame's legs felt like they had turned to water. He could hear Oma's footsteps coming closer to his office door. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might break through his chest and run away without him. Kwame. Oma called again, her voice getting louder. Where are you? You won't believe what just happened. This was it. His life was over. In the next few seconds, Oma would tell him she saw the money. She would ask him where it came from. She would want to know why, after 15 years of saying they had no money, he suddenly had $50,000 to send her. And then she would find out about Efua. She would know everything. Kwame stood up slowly, his knees shaking. He walked to the door like a man walking to his own funeral. He opened it. Amma was standing in the hallway, holding her phone in both hands. Her eyes were wide, and her mouth was open. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Kwame, she whispered. I went to the market to buy tomatoes. The woman there said she could only accept mobile money because she had no change. So I checked my account to see if I had enough money and... She stopped, shaking her head like she couldn't believe her own words. Kwame, there is $50,000 in my account. Kwame's throat was so dry he could barely speak. 50,000, he croaked. Yes. Oma's voice was rising now, getting higher and more excited. $50,000, Kwame. I thought it was a mistake. I closed the app and opened it again. I thought maybe I was seeing things. But it's real. The money is really there. She thrust the phone toward him, and Kwame saw his worst nightmare confirmed on the screen. There it was, in Oma's account, a deposit of $50,000, transferred from an account she didn't recognize. His secret account. Where did this come from? Oma asked, her eyes searching his face. Is it a mistake from the bank? Should we tell them? What if they want it back? Kwame's mind was spinning like a top. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. What could he possibly say? Maybe. He finally managed, maybe we should sit down. They walked to the living room. Oma sat on the edge of the sofa, still clutching her phone like it might disappear if she let go. Kwame sat in his chair, trying to think of a story, any story, that would make sense. I don't understand, Oma said, looking at the screen again. The transfer says it came from an account number I've never seen before. Do you know whose account this is? Kwame's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I think, maybe. Before he could finish, his phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. It was Efua calling. Kwame quickly pressed the button to reject the call, but not before Oma noticed. Who was that? She asked. Nobody, Kwame said too quickly. Just a worker from the site. I'll call them back later. Oma looked at him suspiciously but then turned back to her phone. Kwame, this is serious. We need to figure out where this money came from. What if someone is trying to trap us? What if it's stolen money? Kwame saw an opportunity, a tiny crack in the wall he could squeeze through. Yes, he said, grabbing onto this idea like a drowning man grabbing a rope. Yes, you're right. It could be stolen money. We should not touch it. Don't spend any of it. Let me investigate where it came from. How will you investigate? Oma asked. I'll call the bank, Kwame said, standing up quickly. I'll call them right now and find out what happened. Don't worry. I'll fix this. He rushed back to his office and closed the door. His phone was buzzing again. Efua was calling for the third time. He had to answer. He had to tell her something. Hello, he whispered into the phone. Kwame. Efua's voice was sharp and impatient. I've been calling and calling. Where is the money? I'm still at the bank. My account is empty. Did you send it? There's been a problem, Kwame said, keeping his voice low so Oma wouldn't hear. What kind of problem? You promised me $50,000. I've already told the landlord I'm taking the shop space. I've already made plans. I know, but something went wrong with the transfer. The bank is having technical issues. I need a few days to sort it out. A few days. Efua's voice got louder. Kwame, are you playing games with me? Are you trying to back out? No, I swear. Kwame said desperately. I will get you the money. I just need time. Please, Efua, trust me. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Efua spoke, her voice cold like ice. You have 3 days, Kwame. 3 days to send my money. Or I will call your wife and tell her everything about us. The phone went dead. Kwame stared at it in horror. Efua was blackmailing him. The woman he had thought cared about him was threatening to destroy his marriage if he didn't give her money. 3 days. He had 3 days to get $50,000 out of his wife's account and into Efua's account without Oma finding out the truth. But how? How could he possibly do that? A knock on his office door made him jump. Kwame. It was Oma. Did you call the bank? Yes. Kwame lied. Yes, I called them. They said it would take a few days to investigate. They told us not to touch the money until they figure out what happened. Okay, Oma said slowly. If you say so. But Kwame, if this money is really ours, if it's not a mistake, do you know what this means? We could fix the roof that's been leaking. We could buy Akojo a new school uniform that actually fits her. We could. No. Kwame interrupted, opening the door. No, Oma, we can't spend it. Not until we know for sure where it came from. Promise me you won't spend any of it. Oma looked hurt by his sharp tone. I won't spend it, Kwame. I promise. But why are you so worried? You look like you've seen a demon. I'm just being careful, Kwame said, trying to soften his voice. That's all. Just being careful. Oma nodded and went back to the kitchen. Kwame closed his office door again and sank into his chair. His life was falling apart like a house made of sand. The next 2 days were the longest days of Kwame's life. He barely slept. He barely ate. Every time his phone buzzed, he jumped like a frightened rabbit. Efua sent him messages every few hours. 2 days left. 1.5 days left. Time is running out, Kwame. He tried to think of ways to get the money back. He thought about telling Oma the bank had made a mistake and needed her to transfer the money back. But she would ask questions. She would want to see proof from the bank. She wasn't stupid. He thought about sneaking into Oma's phone and transferring the money himself. But Oma kept her phone with her all the time now, checking the balance over and over like she couldn't believe it was real. He thought about telling Oma the truth, begging for her forgiveness. But every time he opened his mouth to confess, the words stuck in his throat like bones. On the second day, while Kwame was sitting under the baobab tree trying to think, Kofi came and sat beside him. My friend, Kofi said, you look terrible. Like death is chasing you. What's wrong? Kwame almost told him everything. The words were right there, ready to spill out. But shame held them back. Nothing, he said. Just business problems. Kofi said, not believing him. You know, Kwame, I heard something interesting at the market today. I heard that Oma received a large sum of money in her account. People are talking. They are saying maybe you finally decided to treat your wife right. Kwame's blood went cold. People are talking. What are they saying? They are happy for Oma, Kofi said. Everyone knows how hard she works, how little you give her. They think maybe you had a change of heart. Some are even saying maybe you're sick and trying to make things right before you die. I'm not dying, Kwame said. I know that, Kofi laughed. But that's what people do. They gossip. They create stories. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that the whole village knows about the money now. Oma's friends at the market saw her checking her account. Good news travels fast. After Kofi left, Kwame felt even sicker. Now everyone knew. If he tried to take the money back, everyone would ask questions. They would wonder why he gave it just to take it away. His reputation would be destroyed. That evening, Kwame's daughter Akojo came home from school with a big smile on her face. She was 12 years old, tall and skinny like a young tree, with her mother's kind eyes. "Papa," she said, running to hug him. "Mama told me about the money." "Papa, does this mean I can get new shoes? The ones I have now hurt my feet. And maybe some notebooks. We have exams coming and I need." "No," Kwame said, pulling away from her. "No new shoes. No notebooks. That money is not for spending." Akojo's smile disappeared like the sun behind a cloud. "But Papa," Mama said. "I don't care what your mother said. The money is not ours. We can't spend it. Now go to your room and do your homework." Akojo's eyes filled with tears. She turned and ran to her room. Kwame heard her door slam. Amma came out of the kitchen, her face angry. "Kwame, why did you talk to her like that?" She was just excited. She thought maybe for once we could afford things she needs. "That money is not for spending," Kwame shouted. "How many times do I have to say it?" "But why?" Amma shouted back, and it was the first time in years she had raised her voice at him. "Why can't we spend it? You won't tell me where it came from. You won't let me touch it. What are you hiding, Kwame?" They stared at each other, anger and suspicion thick in the air between them. Kwame wanted to tell her. He wanted to confess everything. But the words wouldn't come. "I'm not hiding anything," he finally said. "I'm just being careful. Why can't you understand that?" Amma shook her head, disappointment written all over her face. "I don't know who you are anymore, Kwame. I really don't." She went back to the kitchen, leaving Kwame standing alone in the living room, feeling like the worst man in the world. That night, Kwame lay in bed staring at the darkness. Tomorrow was the deadline. Tomorrow Efua would expect her money. And tomorrow his whole life might explode like a bomb. At midnight, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Efua. "Tomorrow at noon, Kwame. Send my money or I call your wife. I already have her number. I found it online. Don't test me." Kwame's hands shook as he read the message. Efua had Omar's number. She could destroy everything with one phone call. He got out of bed quietly, trying not to wake Omar. He went to his office and turned on his computer. There had to be a way. There had to be something he could do. He logged into his bank account and looked at his other accounts. He still had money in his business account. Not 50,000, but maybe 30,000. If he could send Efua 30,000, maybe she would be patient. Maybe she would give him more time to get the rest. But even as he thought this, he knew it was hopeless. Efua wanted 50,000. She had made that very clear. Anything less and she would call Omar. Kwame put his head in his hands. How had he become this person? A man who lied to his wife, who had a mistress, who was being blackmailed. His mother, God rest her soul, would be so ashamed of him. He thought about his wedding day, 15 years ago. Amma had been so beautiful in her white dress, smiling at him with love in her eyes. He had promised to take care of her, to honor her, to be faithful to her. And he had broken every single promise. A noise from the bedroom made him look up. Amma was awake. He could hear her moving around. Then he heard something that made his heart stop. She was talking on the phone. "Yes," she was saying. "Yes, I understand. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I'll be there. Thank you." Who was Amma talking to at midnight? Kwame tiptoed to the bedroom door and listened. Amma was sitting on the edge of the bed, still holding her phone. In the dim lights from the street outside, Kwame could see her face. She looked determined. She looked like she had made a decision about something. Amma, Kwame said softly. Who were you talking to? Amma jumped, startled. She turned to look at him. Kwame, I didn't know you were awake. Who were you talking to? He asked again. Amma stood up and faced him. I was talking to the bank, Kwame. I called the emergency number. I told them about the money in my account. I told them I want to know where it came from. Kwame felt like the floor had disappeared under his feet. What did they say? They said I need to come to the bank tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. They are going to investigate the transfer. They are going to tell me exactly where the money came from, whose account sent it, and why. Kwame couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Tomorrow morning, Amma would go to the bank. The bank would tell her the money came from an account in Kwame's name. An account she didn't know existed. She would ask why he had a secret account. She would ask why he sent her $50,000 and then pretended he didn't know where it came from. And then, at noon, Efua would call Amma and tell her about the affair. Tomorrow, Kwame's whole world would end. Why do you look so scared? Amma asked, studying his face. Kwame, what's really going on? Why are you acting so strange about this money? Before Kwame could answer, his phone buzzed again in his pocket. Loud in the quiet night. Once. Twice. 3 times. Someone was calling him urgently. Kwame pulled out his phone. The name on the screen made his blood freeze. It was Efua. And she wasn't just calling. She was sending messages too. Messages that were popping up on his screen one after another. Messages that Amma could see if she took just 2 steps closer. I know you're awake, Kwame. I know you're worried. Good. You should be worried. Send my money or lose everything. Your choice. Amma took a step toward him. Who is texting you at this time of night? Kwame, show me your phone. Chapter 3. Kwame's hand tightened around his phone like he was holding onto his last breath. Amma was walking toward him, her hands stretched out, her eyes demanding answers. Show me the phone, Kwame, she said again, her voice harder now. Who is sending you messages in the middle of the night? It's a worker, Kwame stammered, backing away from her. There's an emergency at one of the construction sites. A wall collapsed. I need to go check on it right now. A wall collapsed at midnight. Amma said, her eyes narrowing. And they're sending you love messages about it. I saw the words on your screen, Kwame. Send my money or lose everything. What worker talks like that? Kwame's mind was racing like a storm. He had to get out of this room. He had to get away from Amma's questions before everything exploded in his face. You're imagining things, he said, shoving his phone into his pocket. You're tired. We are both tired. Let's go back to sleep and talk about this in the morning. But Amma wasn't moving. She stood between him and the door, her arms crossed over her chest. In 15 years of marriage, Kwame had never seen her look at him like this. Like she was seeing him for the first time. Like she didn't like what she saw. I'm going to the bank tomorrow at 10 o'clock, Amma said slowly, carefully, like she was talking to a dangerous animal. And I'm going to find out the truth about this money. And Kwame, if you're hiding something from me, if you're lying to me, I will find out. The truth always comes out. Always. She walked past him, went to the small sofa in the corner of the room, and lay down on it, turning her back to him. I'm sleeping here tonight, she said. I don't want to share a bed with a liar. Kwame stood frozen in the middle of the bedroom. His wife thought he was a liar. And she was right. He was a liar. He was a cheater. He was a terrible husband. And tomorrow, she would know everything. He went back to his office and locked the door. His phone kept buzzing with messages from Efua, but he didn't read them. He couldn't read them. He couldn't think about Efua right now. He had to think about Oma. He had to think about what would happen when she went to the bank in a few hours. Kwame looked at the clock on his wall. It was 12:30 in the morning. In 9.5 hours, Oma would walk into the bank. In 12 hours, Efua's deadline would arrive. He had 9.5 hours to save his marriage. But how? An idea came to him suddenly, desperately. What if he went to the bank first? What if he went there early in the morning, before Oma, and explained everything to the manager? He could beg them not to tell Oma the truth. He could offer them money. He could do something, anything. But even as he thought this, he knew it was foolish. Banks didn't hide information from customers. Banks didn't take bribes. And even if they did, what would he say? Please don't tell my wife that I sent her $50,000 that was meant for my mistress. They would laugh at him. Or worse, they would judge him. Kwame sat at his desk until the sun started to rise, painting the sky orange and pink. He hadn't slept at all. His eyes were red and burning. His head felt heavy like a stone. At 6 o'clock in the morning, he heard Oma moving around in the bedroom. He heard water running in the bathroom. She was getting ready to go to the bank. Kwame stood up and looked at himself in the small mirror on his office wall. He looked terrible. His eyes had dark circles under them. His face was grey and tired. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in one night. He opened his office door and walked to the bedroom. Amma was putting on her best dress, the green one with yellow flowers that she wore to church on Sundays. Oma, he said softly. Please. Don't go to the bank. She didn't turn around. She just kept buttoning her dress. Why not, Kwame? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't go find out where $50,000 came from. Because. Kwame's throat felt tight. Because I'm asking you not to. As your husband. I'm asking you to trust me. Now Oma turned around. Her eyes were wet with tears, but her voice was steady. Trust you. Kwame, you have given me $50 every month for 15 years. You told me we were poor. You told me we had no money. You argued with me when I asked for soap. You made our daughter cry when she asked for new shoes. And now suddenly there's $50,000 in my account and you want me to trust you. She picked up her purse and walked toward the door. I'm going to the bank, Kwame. And when I come back, you better be ready to tell me the truth. All of it. The door slammed behind her, and Kwame was alone. He stumbled to the sofa and sat down. His whole body felt weak. In a few hours, it would all be over. Oma would know everything. Efua would call her. His daughter would hate him. The whole village would know he was a cheater and a liar. Maybe he deserved it. Maybe this was God's way of punishing him for being so stingy, so selfish, so cruel to his own wife. Kwame's phone buzzed. Another message from Efua. Good morning, Kwame. Today is the day. Noon. Don't forget. He wanted to throw the phone across the room. He wanted to scream. But instead, he just sat there, numb and empty. At 9 o'clock, Kwame heard a knock on his front door. He dragged himself up to answer it. It was Kofi. My friend, Kofi said, looking worried. I heard from my wife who heard from her friend at the market that Oma is going to the bank this morning to investigate some money. Is everything okay? No, Kwame said, and his voice broke. No, Kofi. Everything is not okay. Everything is terrible. Kofi stepped inside and closed the door. Tell me what's happening. Maybe I can help. And finally, after holding it in for so long, Kwame told someone the truth. He told Kofi everything. About Efua. About the money meant for her. About the terrible mistake. About the blackmail. About how his wife would find out everything in less than an hour. Kofi listened without interrupting. When Kwame finished, Kofi was quiet for a long time. Then he shook his head slowly. Kwame, my brother, he said sadly. I warned you. I told you that you would learn. But I never thought it would be like this. What do I do? Kwame begged. Tell me what to do. How do I fix this? I don't think you can fix it, Kofi said honestly. The time for fixing things was months ago, before you met this Efua woman. Before you started lying. Now all you can do is face what's coming and hope that Oma has a forgiving heart. She'll leave me, Kwame whispered. She'll take a Kojoa and leave me. Maybe, Kofi said. Or maybe not. Oma is a good woman. A strong woman. But you've hurt her badly, Kwame. Very badly. Whatever happens now, you deserve it. Kofi stood up to leave. I'll be praying for you, my friend. And I'll be praying for Oma. She's going to need strength for what she's about to hear. After Kofi left, Kwame sat in his living room watching the clock on the wall. 9:15. 9:30. 9:45. Each minute felt like an hour. At 10 o'clock exactly, Oma was walking into the bank. Kwame could picture it in his mind. She would go to the customer service desk. She would explain about the money. They would check their computers. They would see that the money came from an account belonging to Kwame Ose. They would tell her. Kwame closed his eyes and waited for his phone to ring. Waited for Oma to call him, screaming, crying, demanding to know why he had a secret account with so much money while she struggled to feed their family on $50 a month. But the phone didn't ring. 10:15. 10:30. 10:45. Still nothing. At 11 o'clock, Kwame had a car pull up outside his house. He looked out the window. It was Oma, getting out of a taxi. She was carrying something in her hands. Papers. Bank papers. Kwame's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might explode. This was it. This was the moment his life ended. The front door opened. Oma walked in. She looked at Kwame sitting on the sofa. Her face was strange. Not angry, exactly. Not sad. Something else. Something Kwame couldn't read. The bank told me everything, she said quietly, standing in the doorway. They told me the money came from an account in your name. An account I didn't know existed. An account with over $200,000 in it. Kwame opened his mouth, but no words came out. $200,000, Kwame, Oma repeated, her voice getting stronger. While I was counting coins to buy rice. While our daughter wore shoes with holes in them. While I patched our leaking roof with plastic bags. You had $200,000 sitting in a secret account. Oma, I can explain. Explain what? Oma's voice rose. Explain why you lied to me every single day for years. Explain why you made me feel like we were poor when you're rich. Explain why you sent me $50,000 and then acted like you didn't know where it came from. She threw the bank papers at him. They scattered across the floor like dead leaves. The bank manager felt so sorry for me, Kwame. A total stranger felt sorry for me because my own husband treats me like I'm worth nothing. Do you know how that felt? Do you know how humiliating that was? Tears were running down Oma's face now, but she wasn't crying softly. She was angry crying, the kind of crying that comes from deep hurt and betrayal. I gave you 15 years of my life, she said, her voice shaking. I cooked your food. I cleaned your house. I raised your daughter. I never complained. I never asked for much. Just enough to live with dignity. Just enough to not feel poor. And all this time, you were hiding money from me. All this time, you were lying. Oma, please. Kwame stood up, reaching for her. Don't touch me, she shouted, stepping back. Don't you dare touch me. I don't even know who you are. The man I married wouldn't do this. The man I married wouldn't be this cruel. Kwame felt like someone was squeezing his heart with both hands. I'm sorry, he whispered. Oma, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I kept the money secret. I was trying to secure our future. I was trying to make sure we would always be okay. By making me suffer now? Oma asked. By making your own wife and daughter live like we're begging for scraps. That's how you secure our future. She wiped her tears roughly with the back of her hand. But you know what, Kwame? That's not even the worst part. The worst part is wondering what else you're lying about. Because if you can lie about money for 15 years, what else can you lie about? Kwame's blood turned to ice. This was it. This was when he should tell her about Efua. This was when he should confess everything. But the words stuck in his throat like sharp bones. There's nothing else, he lied, and hated himself for lying again. I swear, Oma. The money is the only thing I kept secret. Oma stared at him for a long moment. I want to believe you, Kwame. But I don't. I don't believe anything you say anymore. She turned and walked toward their bedroom. I need time to think. I need to decide what I'm going to do. If I'm going to stay in this marriage or if I'm going to take a closure and leave. No. Kwame jumped up. Please, Oma, don't leave. I'll do anything. I'll give you access to all the accounts. I'll never hide anything again. Please, just don't leave. Oma looked at him from the bedroom doorway. You should have thought about that before you lied to me for 15 years, Kwame. You should have thought about that before you broke my trust into a million pieces. She closed the bedroom door, and Kwame heard the lock click. He stood in the living room, surrounded by scattered bank papers, feeling like his whole world was crumbling. But then he looked at the clock. It was 11:30. In 30 minutes, Efua would call. In 30 minutes, Oma would find out about the affair. And whatever small chance Kwame had of saving his marriage would disappear completely. He grabbed his phone and called Efua. She answered on the first ring. Kwame, she said, her voice cold and businesslike. Right on time. Or should I say, almost out of time. Where's my money? Efua, please, Kwame begged. Please don't call my wife. She just found out about the secret account. She's threatening to leave me. If you call her now, if you tell her about us, my marriage is over. My whole life is over. That's not my problem, Kwame, Efua said flatly. You promised me $50,000. I don't have it. So I'm going to call your wife and tell her everything, just like I said I would. I'll get you the money. Kwame said desperately. I swear I will. Just give me more time. 1 week. Just 1 more week. Efua laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. It was sharp and mean. You know what's funny, Kwame? You really thought I loved you. You really thought a woman like me would want a stingy old man like you for anything other than money. You're pathetic. Her words hit Kwame like slaps across his face. So you never cared about me at all? Everything you said was a lie. Of course it was a lie, Efua said, sounding bored. Did you really think I called you baby because I meant it? I wanted your money, Kwame. That's all I ever wanted. And you were so easy to fool. So desperate for attention. So hungry for a pretty girl to tell you you're special. Kwame felt sick to his stomach. He had destroyed his marriage for a woman who didn't even like him. He had betrayed his wife for a woman who was just using him. Now, Efua continued, it's noon. Time for me to make my phone call. Wait. Kwame shouted. Wait, please. What if I can get you the money right now? Today. How? Efua asked suspiciously. You said the money is stuck in your wife's account. Kwame's mind was spinning. There was one way. Only one way. But it would mean doing something terrible. Something unforgivable. I'll transfer it from my wife's account, he said slowly. I know her password. I can log into her account and send you the money. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then Efua said, You will steal from your own wife. It's not stealing, Kwame said, even though he knew it absolutely was. It's my money. I sent it to her by mistake. I'm just correcting the mistake. Fine, Efua said. You have 1 hour. Transfer the money in the next hour, or I call your wife. And Kwame. This is your last chance. Don't mess it up. She hung up. Kwame stared at his phone, his hands shaking. Could he really do this? Could he really steal $50,000 from his wife's account? But what choice did he have? If Efua called Omar now, when Omar was already angry and hurt, it would be the final nail in the coffin of his marriage. Omar would definitely leave him. She would take Okoshua. He would lose everything. But if he could just buy more time, if he could keep Efua quiet for a little longer, maybe he could fix things with Omar. Maybe he could convince her to forgive him. Maybe he could save his marriage. Kwame went to his office and turned on his computer. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely type. He had set up Omar's bank account years ago, and he had made himself remember her password, just in case of emergencies. This was an emergency. The biggest emergency of his life. He logged into Omar's account. There was the $50,000, sitting in her account like a bomb waiting to explode. He clicked on the transfer button. He entered Efua's account details. He entered the amount, $50,000. His finger hovered over the confirm button. If he pressed it, he would be stealing from his wife. He would be taking away money that could change her life, money that could buy new shoes for Okoshua, money that could fix their leaking roof, money that could make Omar smile for the first time in years. But if he didn't press it, Efua would call Omar. And that would be the end of everything. Kwame closed his eyes and pressed confirm. Transaction successful. You have sent $50,000 to Efua Mensah. It was done. The money was gone from Omar's account. Gone to a woman who had used him. Gone to save his own skin. Kwame logged out quickly and deleted the history from his computer. Then he sent a message to Efua, It's done. I sent the money. Now leave me alone. Don't ever contact me again. Efua replied immediately, Pleasure doing business with you, Kwame. Enjoy your life. And just like that, Efua was gone. She had what she wanted. She had no reason to stay in contact with him anymore. Kwame should have felt relieved. But he didn't. He felt worse than ever. Because now he had done something truly unforgivable. He had stolen from his own wife. He went back to the living room and sat down heavily on the sofa. His body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. He had solved one problem but created an even bigger one. When Omar checked her account again, she would see that the $50,000 was gone. She would know someone had stolen it. And when the bank investigated, they would see that the transfer was made from this house, from this computer. She would know it was him. She would know he stole from her. Kwame put his head in his hands. What had he become? What kind of man steals from his own wife? What kind of father destroys his family like this? He sat there for what felt like hours, drowning in guilt and shame. He didn't hear the bedroom door open. He didn't hear Omar walk into the living room. He only looked up when she spoke. Kwame, she said softly. I've been thinking. About us. About our marriage. About what happens next. Kwame looked up at her. Her eyes were still red from crying, but her face was calm now. Determined. I'm not going to leave you, she said, and Kwame felt a tiny spark of hope. Not yet, anyway. I'm going to give you one chance. One chance to be honest with me. One chance to be the husband you should have been all along. She sat down across from him. I'm going to use that $50,000 to make our lives better. I'm going to fix the roof. I'm going to buy Okojoa proper school supplies. I'm going to start a small business so I'm not depending on you for every little thing. And you're going to give me access to all your accounts. No more secrets. No more lies. Kwame couldn't speak. The words he needed to say were crushing his chest, making it hard to breathe. Can you do that, Kwame? Oma asked. Can you be honest with me from now on? This was it. This was his last chance to tell the truth. To confess about Efua. To admit that he had just stolen the $50,000 from her account and sent it to his mistress. But as Kwame opened his mouth, his phone buzzed. He looked down at it. It was a message from Efua. By the way, Kwame, I lied. I'm still going to tell your wife about us. Why? Because I don't like you. Because you're a stingy, pathetic old man who deserves to suffer. I'm calling her right now. Goodbye. Kwame's heart stopped. He looked up at Oma, who was watching him with concern. Kwame, she said. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Before he could answer, Oma's phone rang. She picked it up and looked at the screen. Unknown number, she said, frowning. Should I answer it? No. Kwame shouted, jumping up. Don't answer it. It's probably a scam. But Oma had already pressed the answer button. Hello, she said, putting the phone to her ear. Kwame watched his wife's face as she listened to whatever Efua was saying. He watched her eyes get wide. He watched her mouth fall open. He watched the color drain from her face like water from a broken cup. Is this true? Oma whispered into the phone. Is what you're saying about my husband true? She listened for another moment, then slowly lowered the phone. She turned to look at Kwame, and the expression on her face was something he would never forget. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even sadness. It was something far worse. It was the look of someone whose heart had just been shattered into pieces so small they could never be put back together again. She says her name is Efua, Oma said, her voice empty and hollow. She says you've been seeing her for months. She says you promised her $50,000. She says. Oma's voice cracked, she says you love her. Oma, And she says, Oma continued, as if Kwame hadn't spoken, that you just sent her $50,000 from my account. 20 minutes ago. She's looking at the transfer right now. Oma pulled up her banking app with shaking hands. She checked her balance. Kwame watched her see what he had done. Watched her understand that he had stolen from her. The phone fell from Oma's hand and clattered onto the floor. She stood up slowly, like an old woman, like someone who had suddenly aged 100 years. You stole from me, she whispered. You had an affair. You lied about everything. And then you stole from me to pay your mistress. Oma, please, let me explain. Explain what? Oma's voice was rising now, getting louder and sharper. Explain how you destroyed our marriage. Explain how you betrayed me with another woman. Explain how you're the worst husband in the entire world. She was screaming now, tears pouring down her face. I gave you everything. Everything, Kwame. And this is how you repay me. By cheating on me. By stealing from me. The bedroom door opened, and Okojoa came running out, her eyes wide with fear. Mama. Papa. What's happening? Why is Mama crying? Oma turned to their daughter, trying to wipe her tears, trying to control her voice. Pack your things, Akoshua. We are leaving. We are going to Grandma's house. What? Why? Akoshua looked from her mother to her father, confused and scared. Because your father, Oma said, her voice breaking on the words, is not the man I thought he was. And I can't stay in this house another minute. Oma, please. Kwame fell to his knees. Please don't go. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. All of it was a terrible mistake. But Oma wasn't listening anymore. She went to the bedroom and started throwing clothes into a bag. Akoshua stood in the living room, crying now, not understanding what was happening but knowing that something terrible had torn their family apart. Papa, she said, her voice small and frightened. Papa, what did you do? Kwame couldn't answer her. He couldn't look at his daughter's face. He couldn't bear to see the disappointment and confusion in her eyes. Within 15 minutes, Oma had packed 2 bags. She took Akoshua's hand and walked toward the door. Oma, Kwame said one last time, his voice broken and desperate. Please. Don't leave. We can fix this. We can fix everything. Oma stopped at the door and turned to look at him one final time. You can't fix broken trust, Kwame. And you can't fix a broken heart. Not with money. Not with sorry. Not with anything. She and Akoshua walked out the door. Kwame heard the taxi start. He heard it drive away, taking his wife and daughter with it. And then he was alone in the house that suddenly felt as empty as a tomb. Kwame sat on the floor in the middle of his living room, surrounded by scattered bank papers, and finally let himself cry. He cried for his marriage. He cried for his daughter. He cried for the good man he used to be before greed and pride and foolishness turned him into someone he didn't recognize. His phone buzzed one last time. It was a message from Kofi. I heard what happened. The whole village knows now. Oma is at her mother's house. She's telling everyone what you did. I'm sorry, my friend. I warned you. I told you that you would learn. But I never wanted you to learn like this. Kwame looked around his empty house. At his expensive furniture that nobody sat on. At his big TV that nobody watched. At all the things he had bought with the money he should have spent on his family. He had been so afraid of being poor that he had made himself rich but miserable. He had been so busy saving money that he had lost everything that really mattered. The stingy husband who wouldn't give his wife $50 a month had finally given her $50,000 by mistake. And that mistake had cost him everything. His wife was gone. His daughter was gone. His reputation was destroyed. The whole village knew he was a cheater and a thief. And Efua, the woman he had betrayed his family for, had taken his money and disappeared, leaving him with nothing but shame and regret. Kwame sat in his empty house as the sun set outside, painting the sky red like blood, and understood finally what Kofi had been trying to tell him all along. You can't put a price on love. You can't put a price on family. And you can't buy back trust once it's broken, no matter how much money you have. He had learned his lesson. But he had learned it far too late.